Welcome back to the Mortgage Brew, guys. We're excited today. We have Nikki Rogers from my old home state, stomping ground. Nikki Rogers was actually the one person that allowed me to enter into this sector of the world of mortgages and gave me a chance. So I am undoubtedly grateful for what she gave to me and gave me that footstep to get into the industry. But she's a rock star in the mortgage industry in North Carolina, specifically in Eastern North Carolina. But we are super, super privileged to have Nikki here today. So Nikki, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brooks? It's so good to see
Awesome.
you.
Same. I miss being there, miss seeing you guys a lot. And I did get to see Avery at the beginning of when we were setting up the podcast. So it's always good to see both of you. But like I said, you were definitely the beginning beacon for me to get into the mortgage industry. So I owe you a lot of where I am and how successful I'm becoming today. So thank you for that, number one.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I mean, truly, that's why I do what I do. I mean, passing it
Right.
on is so important to me and building out this industry. So that brings me so much joy.
Good. And I'm rocking it here in Idaho, but I still have my roots back in North Carolina and definitely enjoy visiting and coming back and seeing people. So, but how's life for you, Nikki? How's everything going your way?
It's going really good. It's been a year of transition, right? So just I'm out and about a lot. I got a lot going on. But
Selling a
everything's
house.
really good. Yes. And it's like, yes, I'm selling a house. Our COVID purchase is what I call it. So,
Nice.
COVID came and everyone was home, and then this beautiful property came up and it was spacious and it's got all the things, right? And then, but we got back to normal and life has changed a little bit. And I spend every weekend on the ball field. So we are selling so we can get a little bit closer to my mom, so I can have a
Nice.
little bit help with the kids, and then the kids can be with her, and just, priorities change. But the one thing I'll say is I forgot how stressful selling a house is. But I recommend everyone in the industry needs to do it every couple of years for this, just the sake of knowing what our clients are going through, because, whoo, it is stressful.
Yeah, I'm like you. I like being on. Well, I do think our job can be stressful in some ways, or actually a lot of ways, right? But I think seeing that side again, getting refreshed on the sales side of it is good for you. Good for you to be.
I think it just helps us. Like, we always try really hard to have compassion, empathy for our clients, especially when they may not understand things, or it can get a little bit tense and we take it personal. But by going through this experience yourself, you realize that it's not personal. They really just need someone to nurture them through it. And that's really like the meat of the compassion and empathy that you can give to the client. So it's a good reminder.
I like it. I think it's again. I don't want to sell my house. I don't want to deal with that process again. So I'm going to take your word and use you. If I need some advice on how does it feel to sell a house again, I might call Nikki and say, "Hey, Nikki, give me some advice so I can at least understand where these people are coming from."
Right, exactly.
So ball field. How's the ball field life?
Oh my goodness. So, it's one of those things I compare it to the gym, right? Like, preparing for it and getting there and doing all of that stuff, and oh my gosh, we have another game and another practice. But then when you get there, it's the most fulfilling experience. Like watching your kids be teammates and
Yeah.
win and lose, which is super important. Having to share roles on the field with other people, communicating with different adults, like all of that is so important. And we actually had a really late game last night, and it got a little contentious with parents, and the coaches handled it so well. And I loved that my 10-year-old jumped in the car and we were able to talk about that, right? Like, how your coach handled it is the appropriate way to communicate with people. Your teammates, there were 10 of you there. This is how everyone felt. So I grew up playing sports, and as much as it's me and my husband are exhausted, he's on one field, I'm on another. Sometimes we're dropping, because we have 3 boys that are playing rec and travel ball and lessons. But like last night was a reminder why you do what you do. We have our kids for such a short amount of time, and I just can't think of a better way to teach them the things we can't teach them about real life than being a part of a team. So
It's funny that you say that. I do. To me, I feel like the ball field could be more contentious and more stressful than a mortgage transaction. So we'll just play that in there too. I don't
Sometimes.
know. I mean, I love cheering on our kids when they play sports. I just inside, I think we all are competitive at nature, especially if we're in this industry. I
Mhm.
think we have to be competitive at nature.
Right.
So there's a I wouldn't say a demon, but there's a monster inside. It's like, get it together. Do what you need to do out there on the ball field. So good job.
I
Be
take
the
a
parent
laugh.
that makes them feel
I
good.
I Yeah, no, I'm not great at it. Don't hear me wrong. I definitely am the one that he struck out the first time, and I was like, I felt my blood boil, and I was like, I'm gonna go for a walk. And so when he got up the second time, I literally walked around to the bathroom, and I stood 30 feet away. He couldn't see me, and he crushed it to left field. And so, but it's sometimes you just have to like take a moment, right, and go
Yeah.
for a walk.
Get away. Let him do his thing. So,
Right.
one question that I like to ask everybody that comes on the podcast
Yeah.
is a morning routine. I think a morning routine is super vital to our industry, especially in today's market. Um,
Yeah.
what I normally do is I try to find a way to motivate myself, whether it's reading scripture or reading just some kind of quote or something that is motivational that guides me and gives me, I wouldn't say affirmation, but gives me a good sense of what it feels like to be happy. And
Yeah.
then I like to work out. I'm not always successful at that. Honestly, I'm probably worse at that than I am at the reading part. But those two things, and then kind of getting my cup of coffee that keeps me or energized through the day. But that's kind of how I start my day. What's your way? How
Mhm.
do you start your day, Nikki? How do you make sure that you start your day successful?
So I love this question because the answer is different today than it was pre-December. So I had surgery in December that put me home for a while. And coming out of that, after staring at green walls for a really long time, I really tried to look at my life and what was important and what I needed to be fulfilled and have joy so that I could be fueled. And I've read the book Miracle Morning a handful of times, but it never really like stuck to me until I was laying in bed and really evaluating my life, right? And so I have tried to do all the things that the book says or someone tells me, whether it's devotions or working out or after all of the things, right? Where I find my most joy is really in peacefulness and giving, like, I have a servant's heart. And so I get up early now. I've changed my complete routine. I used to be a night
Oh,
owl.
good.
So I worked down to going to bed at 8:30, which is crazy because I used to go to bed at midnight, so that I can get up at 5:45. So my alarm goes off at 5:45. I get out of bed at 6. I go make my cup of coffee and I wake up my 10-year-old first. He has ADHD, and so this change has changed his life. So we don't
Oh,
do
good.
homework at night anymore. We do it in the morning together. Um, and then, so I wake him up, and yes, my son is 10 and has a cup of coffee. He has his own dinosaur cup that changes. It brings him joy, but I'm also teaching him like getting up in the morning when your mind, like whatever, if you need time to keep going, whatever you have to do is important. And so him and I have a cup of coffee together. He has like 3 cups. He just feels cool doing it. We talk about things, and I would say we've gotten like probably the closest we've ever been, and I thought we were close. So I found that my joy isn't in standing in front of the mirror reading "You Are Worthy," which I do that, don't hear me wrong, and it isn't the book, but I am a part of a book club. Or it isn't, I hate running. I was only running for my friends, right? Like, I don't no. So what I love more than anything is being present and in the moment with the people I love the most, but also like serving them in some way. So helping him make a cup of coffee, then helping him with his homework. We start that at 6:30, and I get him going with his sometimes a little bit earlier, and then I go wake up Jameson. He's 6. He loves it. He's got his own little coffee cup. When I tell you it sips, so then we are in the front room, and I do the same thing with him, and it's really changed my life because my children are they're your legacy, right? And
Right.
they go to school prepared, happy, and really feeling connected to their mother. And I think that that's really important. And I will say that it fuels me more than anything ever did, because when we get in the car at 7:30 to leave, we've done everything to the best of our ability. All of our boxes are checked, beds are made. I mean, we're down all the things, and I feel so empowered by showing them the way. And I think that's kind of always been my thing. And is that I do things for other people. Like, example, I hate cold calling. I hate picking up the phone and calling somebody. But Brooks, if you said, "Will you call this person for me?" I would do it. So I think I just had to figure out what that was. And I know that sounds really silly, or not even silly, but I know that's not in any of the books, and it's not. But it has empowered me. I'm to work early also, and I know that my kids are taken care of. So the other piece of it is I stopped getting emails from school. Their behavior's better. Their schoolwork's better. So I'm not focused on the kids until I pick them up. I mean,
That's
that's
awesome.
for me as a mom, a working mom, has really changed my life.
That's awesome. I love it. I think I, I'm with you. I don't like, I like to read and I like to find ways. And I do read a
Mhm.
lot of motivational and pretty much a lot of sales books is kind of where I want to
Yeah,
focus on because I want to be better at my career. But
sure.
I think it's good not to take, the 1 through 10 step that they tell you and follow it wholeheartedly or honestly
Mhm.
blindly and think that that's going to be your pathway to success. What
Mhm.
you just did and what you're doing now is you've read and gotten some motivation from what you've read, but you've built your own pathway, and I think that's awesome. I think that's really good for you and the kids. I think the kids are going to
Mhm.
look back and say, you know what, mom made a really really good decision, and look at us now. Hopefully, they'll take that and build that as a legacy, like you said. So,
Mhm.
congrats,
Yeah.
friend. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I will give you one tip for the books. I'm in a book club with work, and I just listen in the car.
Nice. I like
So
an
I
audiobook.
stopped
I do.
listening
I
to
read a
you.
book. I have an audiobook and I read an actual paper book at night. I think having pages gives me a little bit more of a I have to
Oh, yeah.
concentrate. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a problem. I won't go to sleep. If I start a book in my bed, I will look up and it's 4 in the morning. Whether it's history or fiction or nonfiction or sales, I'm just entrenched in it. And so I had to stop, and I had to stop. I have to do audio and I have to do it in the car, or I won't get anything
No
done.
stopping point. Well, I'm not that way. I can
Right.
fall asleep reading the book mid sentence, so it doesn't
Oh,
bother me.
I'm like, what's next?
So the next thing that I like to find out is what got you into the industry. What made you say, you know what, I think I should do mortgages.
Well, I always was told never to do mortgages, that you're not doing mortgages, because my parents are in the mortgage industry. So when I was 6 or 7, my mom left an abusive relationship, which she's fine with me sharing that. And part of how she did that is by getting a job as a secretary at a mortgage company. And she hadn't worked in 4 or 5 years. She was home with us kids, and so she was the front desk girl. And then quickly they realized she was super talented, so then she became a processor. And then I would say by end of elementary school, she was an underwriter. And so I remember, sometimes she'd work late nights, so she'd come pick us up from school, and we would sit in the office. We'd go in like their conference room, or I mean, I tell people I remember falling asleep under her desk hearing about credit reports. So she then built up, and was a leader, and she's currently an underwriter manager. And then my mom did meet my stepdad. Um, and my stepdad, while I was growing up, and he was an account executive for a broker, which back in before that was all subprime
Pre
time,
08,
right?
yeah.
And so, yeah, pre '08. So that's just how it was. So essentially, think about it like loan officer, in between person, similar. But really, what it is just correspondent lending. And then they would run around and gain the business, and then they would essentially go ahead and place it with different lenders, because per pre '08, that's just how things were done essentially, if you weren't at a bank. So I also was going to college I was in college during the crash. So that's the other piece of it. I headed off to college. I actually, sorry, I'm circling this
Spill
conversation.
it.
Okay, so we'll start with graduating high school. So I graduated high school, and I mean, went to Beach Week, came back. I'm 17 years old, and I started working at Option One Mortgage, which was subprime lender, the number one in the country. It's where my mom was underwriting manager of the entire Southeast, doing loan setup. And so I was keying loans. So the loans would come in from the broker. I'd key them all in, and then they'd go off to processing and underwriting and closing, and then headed off to the core. We were correspondent essentially, and then it was sold off. So I did that for an entire summer, saved a bunch of money, and went off to college. And my mom always did, and my stepdad were like, "You're not going in this industry. This is just lucrative. This is just to pay for college." So I was going poli sci, pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer and save the world and all the babies. And I was going to get into politics and, picket in Washington, because that's what I thought was going to happen. I was just paying the bills with mortgage. Then I came back the next summer. And then they were like, "Well, you're really smart. So we're going to have you process for the summer because," so then
We
I did
need it.
that. And then I came back. Yeah. Then we came for the third summer. And then they were like, "You're going to be a junior account executive," which is a junior loan officer. I was 20 years old, 19 maybe, chasing little account executives around, basically doing what I would call like an assistant to a loan officer today. And then it was 07. And in 07, everyone knew, they call it the crash of 08, but everyone knew in 07. In 07, everybody was starting to severance people off. And companies were starting to consolidate, and the writing was on the wall. So at this point, I went into investments, and I graduated, and I worked for SunTrust Investment Services as an analyst. Got my 766 life, health, and annuities, got fully licensed to do like analyst broker work. What happened right after the mortgage industry crashing was Wall Street. So it was just really, really, really tough. It was emotionally draining. So I did that for a year, and then I went into banking with Wachovia Wells Fargo because I was licensed and everything. And back then you could do mortgages and equity lines, and you could also open checking accounts. So I did all of that for 2 years. And then an opportunity opened up in mortgage in 2012 for our market. So I went into mortgage with Wells Fargo. And then my life changed in 2016 when I met Nelda Kales for coffee on a Tuesday. And I quit on Friday, and I started
Oh
Atlantic Day
my.
on Monday. Oh,
Go
I couldn't.
ahead.
I am a creature of habit, and I'm really intensely loyal, and I really value everything that anybody that's forged a path in front of me. I'm so grateful. I know I wouldn't be there without them. So it was really hard. I would never take a recruiter's call. It was very hard for me to see. I felt guilty. I felt like I was leaving somebody, right? But at the time, Wells was it was tough. It was really, really tough. And I wouldn't even go to a closing. I was scared to death because nothing closed on time. And it was not good. It was not good. So I had met Nelda previously, and when the first time I met her, I heard her speak, and I was just captivated by everything she was saying. It was just like about mindset and joy and teamwork. What? So when she called me and said she was in town and like to meet with coffee, I was like, of course I'll go meet this, to me, this goddess of mortgage, right? I didn't at all think and she wasn't really recruiting me. She was trying to get to know me because she was coming to work in the same area. And that coffee turned into lunch, turned into an offer, and turned into me and her being partners by like literally Friday. So, and then I've been here ever since. So you look back now, and I'm so grateful for this industry. I love it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else, but I definitely was never supposed to, that was not the intent when I went off to college.
And I get it, and I feel I completely understand how Nelda had the ability to wrangle you in and give you that motivational talk, because that's what she is to me. Like, she's just good with
Mm-hmm.
words, a great motivator, a boss lady. Like, she's and I
Oh
remember
yeah.
that when I worked for you guys. Like, she's stern. She understands this is what it takes to win, but she's there to
Mm-hmm.
motivate you. And I think that was an easy easily seen, quickly seen, I guess, more or less, and then easy to follow. So
Right.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, and I feel honestly, Nikki, and I boasted you at the beginning, but I really do. I owe my career to you allowing me to come in. I don't tell this story a lot, and
Mhm.
actually, I'll tell it today because it's on the podcast. But like, I had no mortgage experience coming into the mortgage world. I knew a realtor in the area that we lived in, and he's like, "Hey, Nikki's the best. If you need to talk to anybody about it, call her. She'll give you an idea." And honestly, the conversation that I had called you about was literally just to understand what it took to get into the mortgage industry. My brother's
Mhm.
father-in-law was in the mortgages, and he did really, really well. And I was like, "Hey, I love numbers. I like talking to people. I think I could do it." So, anyways, our conversation, kind of the same situation. We did have ours over the phone to begin with. And I think it was like an
Mhm.
hour long conversation, our first
I
conversation.
remember. I
And
remember. I remember getting off the phone and being like, "Nelda, I know he doesn't have any experience, but I want to hire this guy."
and I was so amazed that when you like we were talking, I was like, and I honestly did not call you at that time to get a job. I definitely was very welcomed by our conversation and how it ended. But you gave me the
Mhm.
steps like you could either start here, make little money, but it does get your name in the door. You could be an LOA, work for somebody, you make money. It does give you a little bit more money and a better side of what the lending feels like, or you could just jump chest deep of water and figure it out. And I was like, that sounds fun. So anyways, and that's what I did,
I love this
and
water.
I appreciated it. And I still had a lot of growing to do. And honestly, I feel like I'm growing
Mhm.
today. I do feel like, I think anybody that's been in this industry will tell you that your first 2 years of doing mortgages is you figuring out how to do a mortgage. And I won't say that like
Mhm.
I'm confident in what I'm doing. And I was confident during that time, outwardly, but inside you're like, crap, I've got to figure this out, this out, this out. But
Mhm.
now,
It's a
so I
lot.
started in what,
It's a lot.
late 2020 or 2021, I think it's where it was. But anyway, so we're
Mhm.
3.5 years in, and I finally feel like I've built a good, solid platform to stand on. But that platform did not come from me doing it on myself. People like yourself, honestly, I went to work for a credit union when I moved to Idaho, and my manager there, her name was Kelly, and she knew that was my pathway. Like this was just a stepping stone to get back into lending, but there was a lot to have learned that I learned while I was there because I was closing, 6 to 10 loans a month there, just because that's how you're spoon fed at the bank, right? So there's a
Right.
lot of learning that comes with that, whether it be at that point, that learning was how to build a file, how to have a good structured file. So it was needed. And I think it was a great pathway. And now I'm back into the lending side. Been in it for back on, I think it's right at a year. Yep. A year and 6 days, actually. So back
Yay.
into the lending side. And I loved it. Last year was not easy, as I don't think it was easy for anybody. But getting back into it and understanding it has been an amazing pathway. So again, I say that and I'll boast you one more time, but that started because of the platform that you gave me. So I don't want to give you too much, but I thank you for that. So the other thing that
I
I
do
want
what
to
I do.
know,
No, seriously, this is like that's what fuels me every day.
good.
That's what fuels me to get in here, and because I know what's been given to me, and passing that on to other people. I mean, there's no payment in the world that can combat that.
Agreed. I completely agree with you,
Agreed.
and I'm hoping that I can do that one day as well. So I've got a couple that I'm eyeing that when business continues, because right now I'm doing really good. I'm usually hitting a million or a little bit over a million a month, which is I feel like it's a good standard to have. But I
Yes.
want to get it a little bit higher, and then I want to have somebody like under me that can kind of help build that and continue that pathway. So awesome,
Awesome.
awesome. So the
Very
next
proud of you.
thing, I appreciate that, Nikki. The next thing is what keeps you in the industry, and what is it about our industry that you really, really do love?
Okay. So, two things I would say. What keeps me what I love are I think the same thing. And really it kind of goes I have a couple really big passions. One we've already talked about, which is growing other mortgage bankers. But the reason I feel that way is that when I was a young girl growing up, it was the mortgage industry allowed my mom to stand on her own 2 feet, right? And the mortgage industry has if you're coming into this industry, it has the ability to create a really just lucrative lifestyle that it's what you put in is what you get, right? And so I like that about like the sales piece of it, in the sense that like you get compensated on your work, right? And the growth that you can have. Um, but because of that, also, I'm passionate about it, because I also went through seeing the mortgage industry collapse with subprime. And I saw our industry get pummeled by the news and the media, and subprime being a dirty word. Well, subprime really was just FHA ish, right? It was just people that weren't conventional, weren't in this, they didn't have perfect everything, and gave them a platform to own homes. Now, what came out of that is a lot of fraud. Awful, awful, awful. And it took, people lost their homes, people lost their careers, the government lost a ton of money, our industry collapsed. I mean, that happened, and it was awful. And I'm really proud of how we've come through that as an industry. But I'm also very passionate about spreading the word that we are facilitators of home ownership in America, which is the American dream. So I spend a lot of time I mean, I am a positive person. Like, my mindset's really usually right, but I spend a lot of time making sure that I don't feed into the negativity of any rhetoric about the real estate industry, because real estate is amazing. We're not making more of it. It's the foundation of being an American, and there is no greater joy than assisting someone to become a homeowner. Specifically, the first time they buy a home, or the first time that, I mean, there are still clients that they're the first people to buy a home in their family. That is why I do what I do. So it's that I'm grateful for the life I've had and that the mortgage industry has provided me. But then on the other hand of it, I am very defensive of it, in the sense that my mission is to spread the message of how awesome our job is, how awesome it is that we have the ability to provide the funding for someone to own their own home, to build equity and a legacy to leave for their families. So that's why I wake up every day, because that's the most important thing to me. Like, I know without a doubt that I wake up and what I do makes a difference in someone else's lives, and I'm good
Agreed.
at it. So like, you
You
got to
are.
have, if you're good at it and you're making a difference. And, I mean, I tell everybody there's like three major things that happen in your life: getting married, having your child, and buying your first home. Like, those are the three biggies, right?
Big
I get
decisions,
to be
yeah.
a part of one. I don't want to be a doctor, and I don't want to marry people. So here we are.
I love it. I think it's true. I think understanding that we are helping people build generational wealth. That is
Mhm.
the one thing that comes out of having a home, is like, this is something that you can yourself live off of, build that generation, or build the wealth for yourself. But also, like you just said, it's something that it becomes a family legacy, something that they can either pass
Mhm.
down to a child. It gives them that American dream concept, like you just said. Um, but I'm fearful that we have to find. I'm not saying that we're in a bad market, but I do feel like we're in a market that's going to be a changed market soon. And we have
Mhm.
to find a way to keep that American dream as an option. What are your ways, or
Mhm.
what do you think that what could we do to continue our path of giving Americans the homeownership dream? And then what are ways that we can make it better than it is currently today?
So
Sorry to
I
throw that one
think,
on you.
no, 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 you're good. You're good. So to me, the most important thing is it comes back to education. And I think that what happened during COVID, which is just mass purchase, right? It really, I mean, it was like wild bananas. And also, we separated from the personal touch. And what happened is that people didn't get as much education around financing and purchasing as they did previously. So I am on a mission to bring that back. So
Okay.
whether it's through doing video with my clients so I can, or Zooming with them, or meeting them in person, and really explaining to them it's not just explain the process, but what does this mean for them financially? We used to talk about their debts. and how much a mortgage payment really should be. Not just this is what you qualify, here's your letter, move on, but actually talking about what that looks like, how much equity growth is coming to this area, right? Because every area is different. How long are you going to live in the home? What is your long-term goals for this? Where is this going to turn into a rental? Where your payment should be? Why you would pay points or not pay points, right? Like really having a conversation about that, because I I don't look at it as necessarily bad. I look at I because I've seen all the different waves of the industry. It's just different. And so, but the only way that it's going to stay productive and the only way that it's going to continue and the wheels don't fall off and everybody keeps rowing the boat, whether the rate is 7% or 3%, is that they understand what their budget is, what they need to make, what the long term goals are, what they should have in reserves, meaning money left in their bank account, right? Like I used to, before COVID, I would always say, do you have enough money if your water heater goes out? That's why we want you to have 2 months worth of your payment in the event that something happens. What if you lost your job? What's your plan? We having those conversations also builds your client for life, because and I'll tell the client, this isn't, I'm not just your mortgage person for this transaction. I want to be your person that helps you utilize the tool of mortgage for your entire financial health, whether it's for you or for your family. So I think that the best thing we can do as mortgage lenders, which we have a unique responsibility not being in a bank because this is all we do, is
Mm.
by making sure that we talk through their entire financing, and that we don't just look at ourselves as just originating a mortgage. We look at ourselves as like big picture budget consultant. Like we really, I mean, that's where we need to get back to, because that's what we were doing. But
Mhm.
quite frankly, we didn't have enough time, and people were throwing money everywhere and going 40 grand over. And I mean, it was bananas. And now we are in a different type of market than we've ever been, because we have incredible amount of equity and prices are still rising and rates are still high. And we didn't think that that would,
Doesn't
we still
match.
have it. But all I can say is that we just got to roll with the punches, and you just have to make sure they understand, and understand not how to upload their documents, understand what it is they're getting into, what their payment is going to remain at, how long that's going to be the case, and having a good plan. So
Yep.
for me, like that's what I'm focused on.
That's the difference maker. I think that's the difference. And I think there are great loan officers that work at banks or financial institutions. I'm not undercutting that job. I
No,
think
and I
that's a
didn't mean
great
it
thing.
that
But that,
way.
no. I don't think you said it that way. But what I'm getting at is, I think that is the one key difference between a lender and that option. It's because this is truly what we do. We do nothing but mortgages more than 40 hours a week, and
Yeah.
this is where our concentration is. And in finding ways to use that mortgage knowledge that we have to guide someone through not only the mortgage process, but making good financial sound decisions so that they can, number one, keep the house that they're getting into, but turn it into wealth, whether it be flipping a house and getting in and growing into a bigger and nicer house, or whatever it may be. Is like, we are that coach, we are that advocate for these buyers to make that decision from day one. Like, I
Okay.
feel like it can, and maybe it was that way in 2020, where we got lost in the sense of, hey, this is a transaction. Let's get this transaction done because I got 10 others that I'm trying to get in or work on. But having the market that we're in now and being able to focus on that buyer specifically, or the buyers that we're working with specifically, and give them that coaching time and understanding that this is not a one-time transaction, is vital to being able to survive this market, number one, but also vital to having buyers and homeowners survive where we currently are. So good good points. I think that'll guide tons and tons of buyers the right way. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite thing product wise? Like, in the lending world, we
Uh,
have different products. So we have conventional, you have your FHA, your three standards, your conventional FHA. Well, I guess four: conventional, standard, FHA. Then you got your VA and your USDA. What's your favorite product to work with? Whether it be those or something that's just an anomaly, a product that you love.
Okay. So my favorite product out of all of those to work on, the four that you gave me, is VA.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, I Well, first of all, I mean, you're helping somebody that's either an active duty service member or a veteran. So, like, that's the right that they earn to have that loan type. I also like it because I think it's the most flexible. And so we can be a little bit more creative, which I enjoy because I like making things work and figuring it out. Um, it's got the best rates, so you feel good
Yeah.
about that. It's a feel good loan. Like, I like
Yeah.
it. And then as far as, when the appraisal comes in, I like that we have the ability to kind of talk
Debate
through,
it.
debate it. Yeah, like, people, and you don't get just one shot, you get two. So, like, I love a VA loan. I feel like the VA loan make is you have to be good at your job, and it makes me feel good about myself. And I mean, that's just the truth. And then as
Mhm.
far as like outside product, it's not necessarily product, but I'm really passionate about North Carolina housing. Down payment assistance, which I think you remember me saying that.
Oh yeah.
So I typically, I know that Atlantic Bay in North Carolina, we were the number one lender for that, meaning we originated the most this year. So we were really excited about that. And then we're definitely the number one in our market here too. And I just love it because I like first time home buyers. Kind of back to
I
what
do.
I was saying before. I mean, first time home buyers, and you get a lot of that with VA too, which is cool. So I think that's why I like that one. And so really, it's my favorite clients to work with are first time home buyers, hands down. I mean, I love all the loans, I love all the people, but if I had to
Yeah.
pick, that's my thing. I just love it. And quite frankly, it's funny because I think people would pick something else, but it's the most work, but I like to work. Does that make sense?
It does. It is the most work. You're coaching, and I always tell my first time buyers that, and I gathered this from the way you taught me, but it's like
Mhm.
there's no such thing as a dumb question when you're buying a house. Like, don't be
Mhm.
fearful to open up and ask a question. So when I talk to my first time home buyers, I'm like, look, I don't want you to think that any question shouldn't be asked. Like, if you have a question, whether it be just why is this certain document needed or whatever it may be, don't think that that question shouldn't be asked, that you should just understand that this is how it works. Because sadly, I do feel like first time homebuyers can blindly follow an originator, and that's not always a
Mhm.
good thing. So having them ask those questions, kind of going over everything is good. And I think, like you said, it's a lot of work. You probably do more work on those files, but that reward at the end is tenfold to your buyer that's bought 3, 4, 5 houses. I tell you what,
Correct.
though, I do miss the VA loan. So I do them occasionally here, but we just don't have the
Yeah.
military
Yeah.
presence that you guys have in
Yeah.
your area. But they are fun to work on because, like you just said, there's so many ways to make it work. Whereas it's not always a yes or no answer on those loans. So they
Right.
definitely are fun. And lastly, the one thing that I've kind of gotten to where I've really, and it's funny because you wouldn't think that this would be where a loan officer would like to work, is DSCR loans. I've really liked
Really?
finding ways. I've got an investor guy that I've worked with quite a bit, and we constantly are flipping his hard money loans that he's bought properties with back into a standard mortgage or DSCR loan. But finding ways to make those transactions because they want fast. They want it to happen, really, really quick. And this is where the difference is between a first time home buyer. Again, I love talking, going through that process, but he doesn't want the chit chat. He just wants to know this is where I am, this is what I got to do, and here we are. So what I like about a DSCR loan, which to give a little bit of information on what those are, is we are only using the value of the house and the profitability of that property. So I mean, yes, we look at what his income is and how his business per se is structured to be profitable, but it's those loans, it's literally how does this house compute to being profitable for him in the future. And I like figuring that out. I like finding out what if it's 1% or gains or less, whatever it may be, finding the best rate for those. So they're tricky in some ways and they can be ugly in some ways. But I think it goes back to that whole thing about the VA loan is there's a lot of wiggle room that you can figure out and make things work with these types of loans that gives me the personal, I guess, selfish satisfaction of I did a really good job on that loan. So it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's
Cool.
fun. So
I've only attempted to, and I've only attempted 2 and they didn't work out because there wasn't enough profitability on the property. So I don't see him as much, but I was surprised
I
how
got
easy
lucky
it
with this
actually
guy.
like the process.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
Good
got
for
lucky.
you.
I got lucky with this guy. I'm very thankful, and he kind of got dropped in my lap. But he has 29 properties that he currently has, and he's buying 5 or so a year. And like I said, it's just I've been able to help him flip those properties and push them into a long term mortgage. And here's another thing like that goes into these, and I probably can have a podcast just on these types of loans because I've really learned what it takes to make them successful. But you can pick different prepayment penalties, so you can have your standard 5 to 3 or no prepayment penalty, and valuing wouldn't it make sense because this is what I like when I first started with the mortgage industry. I was using MBS Highway with Barry Habib and using his analytical tools of how long is it going to take to make it to where the points that you put into a loan or whatever extra money you put into a loan, how long does it take to pay that off, where to now you're
Yeah.
starting to be profitable with what decision you've made. I love that
Right.
side of mortgages. I love saying, okay, yes, our 5-year penalty is going to be a cheaper cash to close. But if we're flipping this property, or if you feel like this property is not going to be a rental property that you keep for 5 years, is it worth it? Do you want to pay that penalty when
Right.
that time comes? Or are we paying these properties off sooner? Because I mean, most investors, they don't play that 30-year game. They might
Mm-mm.
amateurize their loans at a 30-year loan, but they're not going to sit there and have that mortgage for 30 years. So figuring that out, that's where I find value in the nerd side of mortgage, of
Right.
figuring out that and saying, okay, no, this really is probably your best decision because of the circumstances that we're currently in. So,
I love that
and
you
I think
just
that,
called your
do what?
you just said nerd. I was gonna say I love that you just said nerd because that's what I tell people. We're just nerds that happen to be salespeople.
It's so true. Like to
It
me,
is.
selfishly, that is the part that entices me, and honestly, it's a continuously learning industry. Like I don't ever feel like I go to work and I know everything that I need to know to be successful. I learn something every day, or if I don't have something in front of me to learn from, I find it. I find ways to look at a new loan. How is this going to be beneficial to someone else that may come in the future? And I
Mhm.
store it and I figure out how to play that into what it takes to be a successful mortgage loan officer. So if you don't, I don't think you'll succeed, to be honest.
No,
And I say that nicely.
it'll be this June will be 22 years since I keyed on my first loan,
Oh, wow.
and I am learning something every day.
Good, good,
Still,
good. I think that's the only way to do it and the only way to be successful. Otherwise, you're kind of what is it saying? I think, and it goes back to age, but a body not in motion is pretty much dying per se. So you got to keep
yeah.
your
If you're
body.
not
I'm
growing, you're
screwing this up.
dying.
Correct. I screw that up totally.
Yep.
So thank you for saving me. But
No,
yeah,
no, no.
if
But
you're not
anything
growing,
as
you're dying.
simple as you're dying. Period. Right?
Yeah, you got to keep it oiled. You got to keep it going. So
Yeah.
I think that's the only way to be successful. One other thing that I've seen in our industry, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, is COVID did bring a different process. So, like you said, more hands off in the sense of face to face conversations. I will tell you this: when you said that you have video calls, that is something that I've implemented probably in the last 6 months. I always ask people, come to the office, talk to me in the office, and they've gotten
They
used to not
won't.
having to do that, so they won't. So, like you said, so I don't even, and I don't mean this hatefully either, but I don't usually give my buyers an option at the beginning. I say, let's have this video call. I'll show you what I'm doing, how I'm entering your docs, or how I'm entering this loan, so you can actually see that process. And where I see benefits two-sided. One, for them, they truly understand the process that us as mortgage bankers have to go through. But number two, again, selfishly, I'm building that relationship because a face-to-face, even if it's virtually, is a stronger relationship than me calling you on the phone and saying, hey, Nikki, I can do this loan for you. This is the numbers. Here we are. Let's move forward. So I love that
Hmm.
side of it. So, what do you see technology, whether it be AI or tools such as virtual calls? Where do you see that benefiting today's mortgage loan officers?
So I'm actually going to be on a call today at 3:30 about mortgage coach. Have you heard of mortgage coach? Do you have mortgage
Yeah,
coach? You know anybody that uses it? Okay.
we have one in. So actually, the actual company called Mortgage Coach. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I know who you're talking about
Yep.
there. Okay.
So I've signed, I won't lie, I've signed up for it already. I'm that person. Like, I'm like, subscribe, this looks great. But I'm actually today going to get everything set up. And so that essentially what I've seen and seen other people do successfully is that you're able to send the client a link, and they click on the link and they can kind of modify their payment in real time, and you can see what they're doing. So they can play with it a little bit based on properties. You also can, you're on video at the same time that you've pre-recorded that shows you the rate options versus the points, and kind of, so you can talk about that break even, right? So it's essentially a really nice tool so that you can show them the rate options, talk to their through their loan estimate worksheet, whatever it is you use, and then also continue that they have a platform that they can go into in real time and modify their payment, and you get to see it at the same time. So I am going to be moving in that direction and using that platform really starting today. So
That's awesome. I need to look into it. I've been looking at a couple options. I mean, I like the Home IQ, or My Home IQ, which kind of does the same thing, but I think Mortgage Coach is a better, because, like you said, you can communicate with video, and I need to look into it a
yeah,
little bit further. But I think it is something that would be a good, like you said, technological tool that can be used to better your relationship with buyers in our market. So I might
right.
have
I think
to
it just integrates all the things.
I might have to call you and chat with you after that and go
Yeah,
over how you feel like the call goes.
yeah.
Awesome. And then let's see how much time we got. I don't want to keep you too long, but what is so when you get done with the deal, and we're at a closing table, what is your normal follow up? So if, because you love to coach, you love to help mortgage bankers
Yep.
or loan officers get into the industry. What's a way that you can provide information to a new, or even if it's a seasoned loan officer that's struggling getting return business? What's that one thing that you do to
Okay.
make sure that you're getting that return business?
Okay. So during the process, we are very clear about what to expect after they close. So a week after they close, we check in on them, ask them how the house is doing. Usually that's via text message. They also get put on a drip campaign via emails. So they'll get emails once a month. Usually it's like a vlog of some sort that the company provides. And it could be simple as, hey, it's spring. These are some spring cleaning tips. Or, hey, you may have saw this, the Fed increased rate. What does that mean for the mortgage industry? Anything, all the touches could be anything from just about houses, about decluttering, to something that's actually of education. So they're on this email drip. Again, we text the first week. Then we text 3 weeks to remind them or ask them if they received their first payment packet. Do they need any help getting logged on? And we will. I mean, if we need to, like, while they're be on the phone with them while they get that handled, so that's another touch. And usually somewhere in between there, we ask if they know anybody else that's looking to buy. And so if they are, would they mind giving them our name? We ask for, within that first month, we'll send an email asking for a review. And as soon as that review, they get another text, hey, that you just got this email with this review. Can you please, go in and review us? So there's a lot of touches in the first month that really is about how's the house, do the review, the phone call for the payment, and then asking for a referral business. After that, it's the emails, and then we annual, every time it's their anniversary, happy house anniversary. We usually, if we're Facebook friends, we'll comment on their stuff. And it's really just trying to like keep that in front of them. I
Top of
do know.
mind.
Right. And I mean, we have everything's auto, like auto emails go out for birthdays, auto emails go out for, um, you know, a lot of different things. So there's always that touches. And then I think they get a postcard twice a year. That's set on auto. So really, I think just anything that works for you. But if you can leverage and set things on auto as much as possible, do that. And then just, reach out via text. The other thing that you can do that I think is really good is there's an app called Reach, and
I love
you
it.
ended the best.
Yes.
So you know that email is going to go out for happy anniversary. So load all of your clients that closed in October, right? And send out October 1st. happy anniversary month on the house. Hope everything's great. Da, 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 and you could
Mm-hmm.
just whoop, send it. So there are so many ideas, and you don't have to do everything. I have a lot, like I said, on autopilot, and then but that first month after
It's
closing is
personal touch.
critical.
Yeah.
Critical.
I like it. I think that's smart and keeps. Well, I think when it's easy to close a loan and then say, "I'm going to call you in a month," or "I'm going to check in on you in a month," and then that honestly can get left off or forgotten, whatever it may be. But
Right.
using that technology to continue those drips, and you can make a lot of them personal, like that Reach app. It's very personalized. You can put the
Yes.
name into that, and it's so easy. I love it. I use it all the time. I actually use it for realtors as well. Just my weekly communication. I'll send out
Same.
50 or 60 texts using that app and just having to write it once. But using that is the most vital way we can use technology to stay in front of people and still be personal. So I love it.
Agreed.
And I think drip emails and drip communications are also a good ways to do it. So Nikki, what is the last question I got for you? What is the one thing that you would tell a home buyer in today's market as they're going through the process to just either be not just necessarily looking out for, but like what's something that you would tell them that would give them the information to be I wouldn't say more knowledgeable, but something that will give them information and allow them to be comfortable in the decisions that they're making when it's a first time home buyer, first time purchasing a home.
Do you mean like a resource that they could go to, or
No,
what they should
like what's a tip?
like when they're in the process? Like what is?
Yeah. Yeah. What's a tip that you would give someone that's buying their first home? And
Mhm.
like, how can they make sure that they feel as comfortable as, because it's a stressful process. I think it's something
Right.
that a lot of people overlook, but it really is a stressful process. And it's even more so for a first time home buyer. But what's something that you would tell them to do, whether it be, like you said, finding something online or just something that they can do to make this process feel a little bit less stressed?
So so this is what I encourage people when they call me, even if they're not quite ready, is that they allow me to soft pull their credit. And let me tell you
Mm-hmm.
why. Credit is what people are the most scared of to share with the financial institution. They either everyone either thinks it's horrible or thinks it's great, and they're never right, right?
Right.
So you can soft pull credit and it won't put a ding on them. It won't affect their credit. And then I can see where they currently are, and then I can send them a plan, right? And that's important for two things. Number one, it takes the mystery out of what to expect. And so they can get themselves in the best financial position. And during that, we also talk about savings budgeting. We have a whole conversation around that. But at the very least, if you still don't want to talk to anybody, but you want to buy a house in a year, well, first I would tell them to talk to somebody that they trust. But if they can't, at the very least, start looking at your credit, monitoring it, trying to get some things cleaned up, start with collections, just kind of start to learn about credit and what it means and what goes into the algorithm. Again, I highly recommend you call somebody you know and trust, because we can help you a whole lot better than the internet can. But then the second piece of that is credit score equals money. So in this rate environment we're in, the better your credit score, the less money you pay. Period. Like it just
Right.
is what it is. So wouldn't you say that you pull someone's credit and $600 of paying down a credit card changes their score 60 points? That's more than $600 they're going to have to owe at the table because of their credit score.
100%. 100%.
So it's not just fixing credit. It's about putting yourself in the best financial position possible. And the best way to do that is to get your credit in order. And sometimes it takes more times than others, but you don't know if you don't get started. So,
Right.
I mean, I've even restored or helped someone at a 720 get to a 760 because it was going to save them so much money in points. So, I mean, I think hands down, you can go on all these websites and look at these programs and try and do our job. Like that's what we do. That's why we're here to help you. But the one thing that a consumer can affect at all stages of the process as quickly as possible is their credit.
Yep. I think that's a good tool, and I think it's something that specifically in this case, first-time home buyers should really consider when they are talking to a lender. Is number one, that soft pull doesn't affect their credit. I think a lot of people are misunderstood. It doesn't ding it as bad as a hard pull will, and it doesn't quite give us all of the information. We still need to do a hard pull once we really move into purchasing a home. But it
Yeah.
gives you and I enough information that we can say this is the path forward, or hey, we're ready, but we could do better, or whatever it may be. Like you just said, it
Yeah.
gives us a good clue, a good estimate. It's not a Credit Karma score where we can just say, okay, this is perfect. We look good. We'll take that. It really gives us a good platform to stand on. So thank you for that. Nikki, what is the quickest
Yeah.
and easiest way someone can get in touch with you if they want to discuss a mortgage or discuss generational wealth?
Yeah. So I would say the easiest, quickest way is my cell phone. I don't have a
Okay.
business phone. I just have a cell phone. And so
Okay.
that's 252-559-9373. And so text is probably the best way. I know like a lot of people want to call. That's fine. I'll call you back. But texting is something that is just quick. I mean, and then I'll call you
Well,
or
my
you. I mean, it's
friend
either or.
Nikki's busy, guys. Nikki is busy, and she's very, that time is vital. So I
Emails
completely
are fine.
understand.
I mean, you can get a
Oh, I'm
hold of
a
me anyway. Smoke signals, call my
yeah,
phone a friend, Avery. You can find me. That's not
right,
a problem. I'm just saying if you just have a quick question or want to at least get started or at least put whatever, honest to God, text message is where it's at
yeah.
because I respond to them in order and they get responded to way faster than the email. I'm just being honest.
No, I think I'm with you 100%. I'm the same way. Emails are not my friend. I have tried and tried and tried to make that more accessible. And I think if you read the email that I sent you with the link, it says on there, if you need me immediately, you better like text or call me because this is going to be your fastest way to get in touch with me.
Exactly. Well, the other thing is we're a financial institution, right? So we have laws against privacy. So our spam
Right.
filters are ridiculous. So if someone sends a link, I have to go into spam and get it. So half the time I don't
Yep.
know, and half the time, or if they send it from you know, I will tell you half my emails, even if it's just someone trying to ask about a mortgage, ends up in spam on top of it
Yep.
all. And that's really, I can't control that. You can't control that. That's just an industry thing because we have to have such high
So many
security
safeguards.
and privacy, which exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's a good thing. We need
So
it.
text.
So sadly, text me and get it. But awesome,
I
Nikki. I
know.
cannot
And
thank
I
you
hate to say
enough.
that, but
It's okay. I think you're. I
thank
think
you for
you're right.
having
I mean,
me.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. If you want me, you better text me. But no, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. You definitely are a rock star in our industry. And honestly, she said it earlier, but an advocate for people getting into the industry. I can vouch for that. So. Thank you so much for the advice that you've given me personally, but also the advice that you've given on the podcast. So I look forward to seeing you all next week as we drop the next episode. But thank you for tuning in to the Mortgage Brew. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.